All right, we are ready to get started. Family and friends. Family and friends, yes, thank you. We're ready to get started. I know some of you are still eating some of your food. That's quite all right. Continue to eat your food. That's okay. Not going to rush you. It's going to be all right. It's our representatives that are going to be speaking, so that is going to be okay. So this evening here, I'm going to be your moderator. My name is Davina. She'e Davina Tallman Harrison Yinshia. Twitch eating shlo Iberian Bashichin. As a son dashe Ado Iberian Dashanella what astonishly. But Kesht inigi yaha Mark will ya. And Hatchin Ishla Adon Hitsoke 9 Nast A. And we heard the 10th one is coming in December. 10, I know. I just wish I had a lot of sheep so they can go sheep herding. So yes, I want to first say thank you, Yasiki, for hanging in there with us because we had some challenges, not only with just the volunteering, but also you can feel that the AC is not working. They worked on it, I don't know, a day, 2 days, I'm not quite sure. Hang in there. We've got some air blowing. We've got both doors open. You guys have some fans. Thank you for providing those. So we appreciate it. So next, I want to make sure I introduce our visitors. Talking about challenges, my whole printer died, and that's okay. We're going to shape like water and just continue. What I'd like to do is make sure we give a huge, warm, loud welcome to our visitors. Nzade, they came all the way, hours and hours away. You know how much it costs us when we go home, right? It costs a lot of gas money. It costs food. It costs a lot of hours anytime you get onto that highway. So I want to make sure they know you appreciate their presence, their visit. You'll get to hear what they stand about. You'll get to hear those words. So if you could help me, please stand up, please. And we're going to welcome every one of them as they come on down. And please, if you would, I name them. We're going to clap and yell at them, not yell at them, yell for them. We're going to yell for them to show them our appreciation. First one. Let's welcome Debbie Nez Manuel. Woo! Next coming up is Crystalline Curley. Next one up, let's Arvin Trujillo. Yate. And last but certainly not the least, we've got Mr. Justin Jones. Thank you everybody for joining me on celebrating this special occasion here in Denver. We've never had this before, so for all these candidates to come. We want to make sure we tell them thank you. Also for the ones that weren't able to come, because it's a lot of work to stand in front of people that have a lot of demands, right? Some people are not that nice. Some people have a lot to say, maybe because they're just passionate about it. It's a lot of hard work. In addition to that, they got to travel all over the place. They're going left and right. You probably have seen on the internet. They're at a lot of forums. One day they're in Tuba City. Another time they're in Window Rock. Another time they're at another place. Sometimes I can't even keep up. So thank you so much. We'll go ahead and have a seat for just a moment. We're going to keep going down the list here. Thank you, thank you. Let's give them a round of applause again, please. I'm going to get used to this microphone. I usually have something in my hand. It's supposed to be clipped. I'm not used to it, so please forgive me for just a moment. Next, who I'd like to invite up is going to be Nehemiah. He'll tell you a little bit about the Denver Indian Center, where we're at. Come on over. I'll let him introduce himself.
Hello, my name is Nehemiah Sosi. I'm the Executive Director here at the Denver Indian Center. I'd like to welcome all the candidates here. I'd like to welcome them truly. Thank you for being here. It means a lot to me. It means a lot to everyone who was here. We contacted you individually, and I truly thank you out of the bottom of my heart for being here, to tell us about, what you're running for. And you don't know how much it means to me, and I appreciate it. And taking the time out and, being on that road, can really, it's a real time consuming. So, you're doing it for your people. So, okay. And also, thank you, everyone else, for coming out, making time, for being here for the forum. As you know, the Denver Indian Center is the crossroads of Denver Indian country. So, you have the north of the Plains Indians, you have the southern side. So, I want to let you know that the Denver Indian Center was incorporated in 1983. And, ever since then, the Denver Indian Center has been servicing various different Native Americans through Native workforce programs, and also different programmings to service and support Natives through elders and youth programming. And also we have our sister organizations with our clinics, with our housing initiatives, and also with our behavioral health. So, thank you. And with that being said, if you have any questions or if you need to talk to me, please, come by to my office, and my door's always open.
All right, thank you. I should keep my mic on. Thank you very much. That is Nehemiah. You got some questions regarding the Denver Indian Center. It's been here for quite a long time. We have a couple workers here as well that are part of that staff. Raina, you want to raise your hand real quick? That is Raina. She's part of Denver Indian staff. Give her a hand. Then we've got Nina here. That's short. You're going to have to say your full name for me a little bit later. So we've got staff here too. In addition to that, everybody that helped out, they jumped into that kitchen. I just want to say thank you very much. We've got Melissa. We have Blaine that brought some delicious fruits. We have Andy. I'm not sure where he's at. He's been cooking for us. Solahan Leeway back there. We've got a couple other friends that donated. Elvina Earnhardt, she's a Navajo attorney who also resides in Colorado. She donated some money for food as well, so we just want to make sure we say ahihet as well, because partnerships like that, we need them to make sure this type of event is successful. So just to give you a quick history about Colorado, as I told you, my printer died, so I'm just going to go through my phone just a little bit, not trying to be rude, but I put something together to share with you. So again, thank you all for being here today for the Navajo Nation Presidential Forum for the first time here in Denver. Before we get started, I want to take just a moment, because standing here in Colorado matters. A lot of people assume that if you're Navajo and you're here, it means you left the reservation. That you're far from home, that being Navajo in Colorado means being away from Navajo land. I'm going to push back on that. We didn't just leave the reservation to get here. We've been here. Long before there was a reservation, before there were treaties, before there were lines drawn on a map, this land was already part of the Netra, our traditional homeland. 2 of the 4 sacred mountains stand right here on Colorado soil, Cisnajin and the Bentsa. Our people have moved through and lived on this land for generations. They didn't just stop. They didn't stop when they saw a line or a fence. They kept going. Part of that was through Colorado. Even long before the 1950s relocation era, that brought even more families here to the cities in Denver. It was one of 3 cities. The other 2 was Chicago, and there was a third one. I can't think of it right now. So when we gather today, we're not gathering as a transplant community far from where we belong. We're continuing something much older than that. That's the spirit I want to welcome you into the forum with today. We are still here, still organizing, still leading, still getting together, still raising our families, still here. And we will be here still raising our family, carrying the language forward in a state that has always been a part of who we are. So aheha again, thank you guys so much for joining us. Thank you, thank you. All right, so to continue, a couple safety announcements. The bathrooms are located where this hallway is to the left. If there was an emergency and we have to leave this building, you can see there's a door to your right, and there's also an exit door right there to your left-hand side. So if there should be a time where we had to leave, those will be your exit points. Bathrooms, the kitchen is pretty far back there, but I believe they brought all the food out this way. And if there's anything that you need, we also have an AED machine. We also have first aid machine. So this here is a Denver Indian Center event, and I just want to say thank you for inviting me to be your moderator today. And my name is Davina again, part of Navajo in the City. Thank you. All right, as we continue, next I want to have the national anthem song sung by our own Nina. I'm going to let her say her own name. If you guys would stand, please.
Yeah, it's A. Thank you everyone for coming. She'eya Luvanina Alana Sosi Yanshia. Tsana Habitlina Shlinto, Tsenjikina Ebashishtin. Shehe Eda Shiche Tabahe Eda Chanele. And the late Twilagay, New Mexico, Dan Nasha. Nalay University of Colorado, Huetate Otayinshtra, Psychology Nanigi Bayinshtrat Dole. Again, I want to thank everybody who supported us with this event. I reached out here to Davina just because I know she's very well known in the Denver community. And again, I want to thank my executive director, Nehemiah Sosi, for putting us on the map once here again. And then also to the candidates, I'm really, really grateful and thankful for them. Just to add, I'm also a member of the Navajo Nation Youth Advisory Council. So that being said, right here is the flag.
I apologize. It is my fault. I'm supposed to introduce her. I wrote it all up, and I didn't do it because I'm rushing. So I apologize. I want to make sure I read her bio. Number one, she's the one who put this together. She made the phone calls. Everybody give her a hand. What I really like about her is she's got these ideas. She's young. She came here to the city, and her plan is to go back to the res. Now this here, you're looking at a trailblazer. Get her name, get her email address. So Luvanina Sosi, it is from, I'm sorry, where?
Yeah, I'm from Tcuitlagay, New Mexico.
Thank you, I appreciate that. She's a Tehachapi High School graduate from Navajo Nation, initially faced total rejection from Colorado universities. Pivoting her path, she attended Navajo Technical University, where long drives across the reservation deepened her appreciation for her homeland. There, she discovered her passion for psychology and graduated magna cum laude in 2021 with an AA in counseling. Empowered by success, she applied again and transferred to the University of Colorado, Denver, graduating again cum laude with a bachelor's degree in psychology. This journey taught her the emotional weight of leaving her Dene community to pursue higher education. Today, Nina serves as a relationship guidance specialist with Kinship and Commitment Program at the Denver Indian Center. Currently working toward becoming a licensed marriage and family therapist. Her ultimate dream is to return home to the Navajo Reservation to establish a behavioral health and wellness center. She hopes her journey reminds other Indigenous students that where you begin doesn't determine where you either stay or even go. Ladies and gentlemen, give her a warm hand again before she sings for us.
Thank you. So if we could all face the flag, please. It's right by there. Yashod anolei hayokal biyende badawini goat dananta yego nehit nalini no dos do beson te sos na bayet akoya bit awini yego dainatle nikichinda de dahin bandalini ahol ago benedita bahadzid awalonde eya beita si hasin toane hadas it ozendid toshi e som bilsenilgo danata hol ado nikkeya bikigiki God holds your nightly. Yeah.
Let's go and remain standing. I apologize. Next is going to be prayer. And this is going to be from another community member, Mr. Harry Teller. Come on up, Mr. Teller. As he's coming up, I want to make sure that I share some information with you about his journey, because the blessing he brings this evening is the pinnacle of a lifelong commitment to his Diné heritage. Mr. Harry Teller's journey began in Chinle, Arizona, where he was raised deep in the canyons by his grandparents. His youth was rich with traditional way of life, the Nepi'ina. From herding sheep to helping raise his siblings and translating for his grandparents as a fluent speaker of the Nebazad. In 1964, Mr. Teller brought these deep roots to Colorado, becoming a true cornerstone of the Denver indigenous community. He spent 47 wonderful years building a family with his late wife, Mabel, a legacy that lives on through his children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. While Mr. Teller is retired from his career as a welder, his lifelong purpose serving his community continues today. Harry is a gifted silversmith, an active member of the Native American Indian Church, and a cherished spiritual leader, an uncle, brother, and grandfather. Harry just doesn't pass down his culture, he embodies it. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me give a warm welcome and gratitude to Mr. Harry Teller, who's going to do our invocation.
It's good to see all of you here at Indian Center. And then I'm really glad that these officers running for president and when they're out there here. They told me there's about 16, and then there's only 5 then coming up. Now it's only 4. But I'm really glad that they came here. They're going to see how many you are here in Denver. We're a lot of them, Navajo, here in Denver, Boulder, Fort Collins, Greeley, Colorado Springs, Pueblo, all around. In Denver area in Colorado. I'm very happy you guys came and seen. My name is Harry Teller. I'm coming from Chinle, Arizona. hot ashenessa. It took it to the Chinese saucy, those sans so yene, others other shike. I don't the totsoni inchla. I don't the to the my dish key, Ebas chin, to the chin, that's a chi, when I got it, that's another. Those is a young Delmer Tobacco Kate hat echo. Ako yat ekwan hano kage, I see Yego by Henson, she says, Neta no koyat akodo, a yakodo la be, lato hato be, ni large naso zinto de lako hot echo. Ako citizen lineage, qua, hotel a yaquis quinaka a fork a then 4 years a day. I got like when Hania go a yaquat ako citizen batilia, Bonager. I call quite I for not nago. When Han they started in that, he never came back. I could at the state at I don't corner Han Zada. I call a quag yo and hit that is Asa. I couldn't hear that little list. Could remember as we're up here. She a shoulder. Other Shamado Conte, down seen that store. Now, when there's a mom go, yeah, make you strong. Say, yeah, come on, long go. I do it, she dog, all the way down. I call the chapter has, but I don't want has uncle. Yeah, I don't know. Thank you for everybody show up by hands and they call the I don't know. Jopa had Jopa and Zenebi. Could I he can thank you? I'm going to pray with my own language. Kode horizontal les na sanche manline ne kado jopana de ni ne kado tsanada de de ko ha yot ado ni ato I aje ko kodo en he di no ta kodo si zen de se ko kodo jena I kan de se ko konde ako konsik en lini konde sen hai kai gi ba hensen de ko ta don da konde they use their own money konde came up and de ko konde ko na ako kodo ya konsa da so they did those things, so yet our echo, ye answered that case, what other not so the shady though, Atlanzo, she could I kai, Shiba hens, and I'm really glad for them. They came at the snake or conda. I don't die, a conda, but Madame Conte, a family, she had long death, don't conda, at I con at the hat that they still conda itchy, liquor conda. I'm very proud of them, liquor conda. I don't the code out so you can't have a whole yard of listen to Kaiko Conjo Cona. Shall get it little, le shapa a whole yard of le shapa and chin or conjo cona. Shapa a whole yard conda yard out conda. The nature in the card, I don't see the coyard out conda. Yet yada to instant of listen, leco conda. What are a combat this leco conda? What are citizen lily pan lot of listen, leco? I don't the call in Denver area quite. There's not a Navajo in Lake Quackhead and Lake Conda. Some of them they came in here in Lake Quackhead. I don't know this president running for president. They saw them. They saw Conchita Lini Coconda. Coye Beni Tayada Hot and little they could have been a Tayada Hot. Con Nada Kadoyat Combe. A.H. Kodo Yat Yanada Tioyat Belat Batsers and Lini Con. Be that no done, no, the sense to turn Lini Conde for Chapa Honiado. I don't the country Yanchi they see in the door again. Leco. When I conjure has stayed or lectures and Lini bit out of the other be last like or like Conde against our Shandan Lado let in the name of Jesus. I pray. Amen.
Thank you. Let's give him a hand again. You see. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Okay, yes, thank you. Okay, we're going to get started to the meat and potatoes. Again, I just want to make sure that we commend all of them for coming. I know that there were some other candidates that wanted to make it. They weren't able to, but they're probably either watching or they're going to call their family members and say, hey, how'd it go in Denver? And we're going to say, it went awesome. We need to go back. So they're going to say Denver people over there, those Dene are very welcoming. Traveling constantly, they're always facing passionate voters who are demanding real answers. It's a tough job, and we want to make sure that we're respectful in every aspect. Whether you want to ask a question while you're here, or even if you're online, we're going to remain respectful. The way to get your voice heard is, of course, vote, right? Make sure that you vote. So a lot of urban Navajos throughout the country, it's just not here in the United States, but we've got some service people who are also watching just about every forum where our candidates are arriving. So even us here in Denver, we've been watching a lot of those forums as well. We heard a lot of the responses. We've been highly engaged on discussions on topics like the importance of protecting voter rights, gridlock within our three-branch government, increasing voter participation, sometimes even about conflict that's going on between the executive and legislative branches. We're listening. We could be somewhere, anywhere in the city, whatever zip code, we are listening. We heard about the yeses and nos on data centers. We need to improve elder care, navigate federal regulations, domestic violence, and so forth. So tonight, I hope some of our questions will refresh some of their talking points with a couple of brand new questions. And some of those rules that we saw are going to be pretty much the same. We'll give them 2 minutes to introduce themselves, and then when we do ask them questions, we'll give them 3 minutes to 3 minutes to answer. Oh shoot, I should have brought mine. We've got a clock here. Come to find out, it plugs in way over there in the corner somewhere. All right, I got my cell phone. Technology. We can start the timer by I'll use my cell phone. If there is anybody watching on social media, we've got a phone number available for you to call in and leave a voicemail, leave a message there, and we can read it to them. We want to make sure we reach everybody. We are already getting messages from Phoenix. We got one from Alaska. We got one from, of course, here in Denver. Somebody was sitting here. They said, can I go ahead and call? I said, go ahead. So we got messages from there. We also have some messages from the res. So it's really good technology that we want to make sure we tap into. That phone number is 505-333-9158. We were going to attempt to use our cell phone and hook it to the microphone, and we found that it's too low. It is causing a little bit of noise. So if you want to do that, somebody's calling right now. Get those questions in. We have a lot to ask of them, but the first thing we'll do is allow them to introduce themselves for 2 minutes. Are we ready? Okay, I will start my clock. Thank you, whoever's online, for calling. Leave a message, and we're going to read it. You got it? Okay. All right. Would you like to go ahead and start first? We'll go ahead. Actually, you know what? We'll start this way. I apologize. We'll start this way. Navajo clock. Sorry about that. Yes.
My name is Arvin Trujillo. She is a Sakadian Shle, but Anye Bashin, Ashin Dashichedo, Nakaidinesh, that like that. I just want to say good evening to members of the Denver community. You know, it's a privilege to come here and to provide you information about myself. As a part of my introduction, again, I'm from Fruitland, New Mexico. Pati Ledoye. Been there for a number of years. Went to school at Kirtland Central High School. And from there, again, in many ways, I've served the Navajo people in many different capacities. I've been married for 43 years. My wife, Cynthia, who's sitting here. I have 3 grown children. All of them have their degrees. 2 have their masters. And so again, you know, we've challenged our children to proceed and to grow and develop. And the family's been foundational to me. You know, that's where I learned responsibility, service. That's where I really looked at how we begin to support one another. And more importantly, really putting others before me. looking at others' capabilities. You know, I've worked in the public and the private sector for a number of years. I've had a 40-year career working in government, corporations, nonprofits across the country. And given that experience, again, what I'm looking at is really how do we begin to build the Navajo Nation. I worked with the Division of Natural Resources as executive director. I've accomplished a number of things in those areas, and I'll share that with you later on. But I just want to take this time to really thank you for the opportunity to come before you and to provide you with my capabilities and my case. Thank you very much.
Yate ashine kodoshike do nikawe konahas kaniki. Thank you, organizers, for doing this special event here in Denver. Bronco country, right? I know. Broncos are my biggest AFC rivalry, so we'll see. That's another subject. She senja kinenishle ado tko headlini e bashichin kia ani dashiche do ztka kia ani e dashanale what amato asanshle ado inidi yet nkitleluan shito shawe my baby's back there. People ask me why I do this job, why I push myself to be a public servant for my people is because of my baby back there. She is always behind me, pushing me to do better. My hubby couldn't be here this evening. But I'm here. I'm very happy to be here, all the way out here. But I know there has been many candidates that couldn't make it here today, but for me, it was very important to be here because it doesn't matter if we live or off the Navajo Nation. We are all citizens of the Navajo Nation. So I'm very happy to be here, looking forward to the discussions. A little bit of background about me. I've been serving for 3.5 years as the speaker of the 25th Navajo Nation Council. I'm the first woman speaker, and it only took 100 years, ladies. It only took 100 years. and that's part of my platform. We have to think back at the home level to build a nation, to build a strong government for our children.
Yat A, Shik Edo, Shidanedo, Shelkahasinlo, Justin Jones, Jagan Shia, Adopet Ahnidonen, Schletratnes Zahneba Shin, Kin Lichin, Eda Shichedo, Shiheda Shinadle, Sensades, Aholia, Rock Point, Arizona, Ado Eya Inasha, Adonda E Samilinash, Enigido E Hodlon, Kohot Eya E Tratinova Shla Nache, Ebel Inash on. Akohot ya konzahon khalchne khalt kot ega akohot ya kwede ya front range gen khani khasle hyan hidini dolis. I'm saying things in Navajo because I know when you're away from home, it's always good to hear Navajo. So it's really good that we are here today. One of the things that I wanted to do, and one of the main reasons I wanted to run for the Navajo Nation President, was that I got sick and tired of the same old rhetoric every 4 years. And then in that, we really need to clean our house in Window and on the Navajo Nation. Because some of you were here for a long time now, coming here for your jobs, and you've been told, oh, we're going to have a Navajo chapter house here. We're going to do this. But today, you still have no basic services here, even just to check on your census numbers here and your CIBs. You still do not have any services that an enrolled Navajo has at the chapter level. Yes. You're being discriminated against. This is really what's going on. No, you are discriminated against by your own people. That needs to stop. That's why I'm running for things like that.
Push it up.
Testing. Ja, she sanja kininch tet na habitni bashes chin tet na Jenny dash che trabaha dash nale she Debbie Nesmanyo yinchia. My husband I'm near a speaker, but my husband Johnny is over on this side. I'm coming tonight because I really care about you. I lived in Maricopa County for over 30 years raising my family. I know what it's like to live in an urban area. I know what it's like not to get services you need, have to drive home and get all of the resources you need, only to get there and find out that somebody is off work, they're not gonna be back till next week, and somebody doesn't know what's going on. And then you try to leave messages and nobody calls you back. That happens repeatedly, so I get it. But before I get into all that this evening, I want to say thank you to all of my relatives in here, my family who are watching online. There is a Gold Star mom that's here, Haj. She's Gold Star wife that's here. I want to thank our veterans. There's union workers representing in the room. Thank you. There's public safety, health. There's mom and dads and uncles that are out there. I want to acknowledge that. I think it's so important for you to know that I know how to follow laws. I know how to follow policies. I know how to follow procedures. Even though they might be outdated, I know how to follow it. I'm also very honest. You will not see me taking money from anybody else that isn't something that I earned or that I made. I need to earn my money, earn my keep, as my grandparents have told me, and that's what I want to do. Honesty, integrity, and character matters, not just during election time, your whole life. So I want to bring that to the administration. Thank you.
I was told I give off electricity. I can't stand near you. Our microphones. So we have a lot of calls coming in. We'll get to those in just a moment. And we're going to go ahead and get ready with some of these questions here. Let's get excited, you guys. Let's give them a hand again. Keep going. Let's go. Let's get some energy in here. We're going to ask them some questions. And here we go with the first one. First one's going to be more of a get to know you. First question is going to be, leadership requires strong personal values. Who is your personal hero, and what specific quote or saying do you live by that guides your decisions? We'll start with you.
Again, looking at leadership and what guides me. You know, I'm a man of faith. And spiritually, again, that's where I look at integrity and the basis of that. You know, I believe in servant leadership. And looking at what Christ did as he began to teach people about leadership, he pulled the sandals off his disciples' shoes and he washed their feet. He was showing by example what he did and how he performed. And that leadership meant that you worked for those below you. You worked with them. And that's what I do as far as a leader. I work for the people. I work for my employees. I teach them. I mentor them. I have a tremendous amount of experience. I've worked in management positions with different corporations, BHP, Mobile, Arizona Public Service. I've worked for the Navajo Nation. I was the executive director for the Division of Natural Resources for 11 years, from 1999 to 2010. I've worked for nonprofits. I was the CEO for a while for ACES. I was the CEO for Four Corners Economic Development. These things were presented to me, and I was able to lead those organizations forward. With the nation, I was a part of the negotiating team that lifted the Bennett Freeze. With the nation, I negotiated the water rights with San Juan River Basin, and we're beginning to look at water distribution on the eastern side of the reservation through the Navajo Gallup Water Supply Project. But those things weren't done by just one person. That wasn't me. That was developing a team and developing a group of people and bringing stakeholders together, the state, the feds, the chapters, bringing them together, getting them to talk, and really seeing things happen. We brought a hotel to Monument Valley when people told me you couldn't do that. We expanded 491 and 550 from 2-lane to 4-lane highways. Senator John Pinto came to me. We talked about that. He said, I've been working at this for 15 years, and people are telling me it can't be done. We helped him do it, the Division of Natural Resources under my leadership. So leadership is looking at servitude, how you begin to work with each other, how you begin to bring diverse partners together, and most important, how to get results, how to get projects done. That's what we did. Thank you very much. Position number 3, Arvin Trujillo.
Ada yat nana ada kodona ada kidigi. Who do you look up to help lead your leadership? For me, it's our Lord and Savior. Before I made my decision, it took a lot of fasting. It took a lot of prayer. You just don't make a quick decision right then and there because it sounds exciting or it's about popularity. You know, one thing that scripture that keeps me going on a daily basis, I don't really talk about this, but I think it's important to share because we do have many of our people that are here, our young people that are here, and this is part of my teaching. One is the scripture, Josiah 1:9. That is my heart and rock. It says, be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid, for the Lord is with you wherever you go. You know, it doesn't matter what faith we come in, but it teaches love. It teaches inspiration. And one thing that I know about leadership, either if you're a woman or a man, it does not teach you to talk on another person down or a woman down. A leader should be able to inspire, to love the people, and to spread hope. Because it is that time, we have long history here in Denver, throughout this whole region. You know, when we passed the sacred mountains on the way this way, you know, I got out of the car and I just, you know, offered a prayer and did an offering. Because we are all hopeful that one day we do have a president, we have a council that will work together. And to this day, you know, I go through it every other day. But that does not mean I react. That does not mean I get angry. It means I listen and I look for a solution. But most importantly, to love my people.
It's about time we got a good question, isn't it? That is a very good question. What are some of the values that is the foundation of your leadership? Leadership is based upon your home fire, your honeshkish, your water, your food, your bedding, the fact that you have a hogan with a dada Nepal that faces east. That is your khansaha kes khaanne hats east hotelgen. What are the principles that you live by? Number one, I was told by my parents and my grandparents, you have to believe in something. You believe in yourself first. Number two is that you have to abide by certain things that are in this lifetime. You You can't say, I go do this and I go do this and I did this and that, if you don't even live by it. That's what they used to say, and I believe it. There are rules and regulations in this life every day. God is still in control. Is still in control. You have to have respect for yourself and others. Your creation here, God's creation, you live by that. You have to have respect for that. It's a dissin. Water. And then finally, over here, when you have all of that, you have to have ego. Many times people say ego. There's these three things that precedes that. It has to be you. Nobody's going to do it for you. So you got to get up and do it yourself. Give it all you got. Those are the guiding principles of leadership I live by every day that came from my parents and my grandparents.
I carry my corn pollen bag with me everywhere I go. I make offerings in the morning, I make offerings at noon, and offerings in the evening. Shamana Sanya Dilkit, Johana 8, Ena A, Hayot Kath Nehodot Ish, Nehotoi Chalkit, Sisna Genitotil, Dogosli, the Bensa, Dilna Odili, Jil Joy, Toil Tanashin, Tobiage, Shayat, Stay One, the Indina. These are the deities that take care of me and my family, my husband, my children, my home. They guide me. And no matter where I'm at, no matter what I'm doing, no matter who I'm talking to, I respect Allah Ishla'i. I respect our animals. When we were driving up here, we were driving along by Del Norte, and there was a huge herd of buffalo. It was one of the most beautiful sights that I seen with my own eyes. We stopped by the road, we prayed, we gave thanks, we honored them, because all of our animals, our four-legged creatures, our winged animals, all of them, they feed us, they nurture us. Right now, some of us here, we left our sheep at home in the care of other people. You know, there's things that we have to think about. It's so precious and so sacred to us. Sometimes we don't even share that, but I shared that with you, just like Crystalline was saying, is that usually we don't talk about that because it's so sacred, but for me, that's my driving force. It got me from the time I lost my mom at 3 years old. It got me through kinship care, foster care, abuse, child protective services, till I aged out of this system. This took care of me. It gave me so much strength, courage, and conviction to overcome the challenges that I have faced as a woman, as a girl, as a woman, as a mother. And I'm really, really grateful for this.
Thank you for sharing that. Next question. Navajo Nation owns nearly 30,000 acres of ranch in Colorado. Yet the daily livestock operations have historically relied on non-native staff for continuity. What concrete steps will your administration take to create training programs or opportunities that the Navajo citizens are the ones actually working and running these tribal operations?
Okay, thank you very much. You know, as I said, for 11 years, I was the executive director for the Division of Natural Resources. During that time, we were looking at a number of different ranches, Big Boquillas, San Ysidro, which was sold later. And now they've got another ranch up here in Colorado. What we were wanting to do was figure out how do we begin to move from the contracting aspects to seeing how we can begin to get Navajos working on those ranches. We worked hard with new lands to really begin to assist them to begin that cattle operation in new lands and developing beef. But again, it's looking at how we begin to transition and how do we look at those ranches because of their distance And it's teaching our individual Navajo ranchers, how do we begin to develop these co-ops? And how do we begin to develop markets for our animals? The casinos were a good operation to provide cattle to and steaks. But again, how do we begin to look at other ventures so that these ranchers can begin to find subsistence for their livestock and find areas from which they can really develop those ranches? Again, there's certain areas that we got to really take a look at as far as infrastructure is concerned. But again, it's looking at how do we enhance that ranch operation? How do we get those young people to come in and begin to take interest in those areas? We do have young people who want to come in and do farming. We're beginning to get young people who want to do ranching. We got a number of young people who are looking at culinary arts. My nephew, Justin Payochi, you know, he won a national competition on television. You know, he's in the culinary arts. And we were able to, and he's looking at how he can use Navajo products, Navajo beef, in order to enhance what Navajos are able to produce and what natives are able to produce, and go to the television to begin to show that and showcase what Native American foods are like. And he teaches young people. But again, it's developing that partnership between our farmers, our ranchers, and now our culinary arts students. Together, they can really begin to enhance that. We can find ways to really use these ranches productively, and more importantly, use our farms productively. Thank you.
Testing. Okay. Wolf Springs Ranch is actually the ranch that was sited here. It is south from Denver. I actually have not been there myself, but it was purchased back in 2017 for a little over $20 million underneath the Russell Begay administration. So we have been managing that ranch for several years now. However, I know there's an increased interest and how we get our Navajo ranchers. But on that land, we do have cabins, we have a lake there, we also have buffalo there. And from there, they're actually making jerky, so some of the products that are actually out there on the market right now. But I think underneath my administration, I actually really thought about this. We have sheep back at home, and now we're going through a drought. Back at home. You know, many of our water wells, I'm dealing with that right now and in a state of emergency with Nuzlini. And now our ranchers, many of our livestock owners, many of us are actually selling our livestock right now because there's not enough grass. Actually, my family, we had to sell 10 more sheep last week because, you know, within the area that we live in, there's no more grass. So that means we have to find either another location for our livestock or we have to sell it. So those are some of the real situation that is happening. But underneath my administration, I do want to create a rancher's apprentice program there at Wolf Springs Ranch. And then also creating, you know, a Sacred Mountain, you know, livestock owner, because the space is there. However, it does have to take co-management and being able to work with our Department of Agriculture and also Natural Resources, which are underneath the President's administration. So those are already some of the outline plans. I know we have other ranches that were bought using the land acquisition funds that were used to acquire many of the lands off the Navajo Nation. So it takes a lot of history back on what the main purpose it was used for, and then evaluating that current program. Is it working? Is it bringing enough revenues? Or do we repurpose and give it to our Navajo people because right now we're dealing with a drought? But I think some of those acres of land should be used for some of our livestock and our ranchers, and then teaching future farmers how to provide back at home and bring that teaching back home. So if you do get a chance, you know, it is down the road right here. So I was actually thinking about going back down that way to see, you know, to see it for myself. But it is underneath within the executive branch. Thank you.
One of the things that we premise this campaign upon is to ask the hard questions. Questions that people were just afraid to ask or they didn't want to ask. So one of the questions that we're asking here within this campaign is the fact that how wasteful are we as a Navajo nation? We are completely wasteful with our funds. If you look at the budget, right now the council is deliberating upon a budget. And I challenge each and every Navajo to look at the budget. How much of those dollars actually do come to you? How much of those dollars are new dollars that are appropriated to you? But the most important question is, how much pork is in this budget? Special projects, little projects that the delegates do and the president does. So based upon that, you have to apply that same question to this ranch. $20 million. How much did we get back of that? Is it making money for us? Let's ask that question. Is it making money for us? And if it's not making money for us, let's get rid of it. Plain and simple. We can have the same livestock programs, animal husbandry programs on the Navajo Nation, when over half of the Navajos don't even know that this ranch exists. That doesn't make any sense. So these are the hard questions we have to ask ourselves. What would we do with $20 million? Man, we'd probably build a Navajo Nation event center here for the residents of Denver easy with $20 million. We can have rental assistance for the residents of Denver, $20 million. There are a lot of things we can do with $20 million, but the Navajo Nation is stuck in this quagmire. They're stuck. Their mentality and their whole outlook of government, Justin Jones' administration is going to change all of that, because we're sick and tired of having to do the same thing every 4 years. The residents of Denver, the Front Range, how many times have you been told this and that? Boone Nygren came over. Did he serve hot dogs to you 4 years ago? Probably not. But he didn't come back, didn't he? That's the problem we're trying to change.
$20 million is a lot of money. $24 million is a lot of money. $50 million is a lot of money. What we should have did with that money is we should have helped our veterans. Our veterans, both here at home, are waiting for their roofs to be repaired. They're waiting for their plumbing to be fixed. They're waiting for their doors to be repaired. There are Gold Star wives, Gold Star mothers, Blue Star moms who are here. They're asking for help. Why are we purchasing something that is only employing non-native people? What is the purpose? I don't understand. If I were to go to a chapter, say at Forest Lake, Pinyon, or Clagato, or another place in Eastern Agency, if I went over there and I asked them, do you know about this ranch? And they'll look at me and they'll wonder why. Why? What's the purpose? Even me coming up here, a lot of people question that. Why are you going up there, Debbie? Are you going to misuse your tribal dollars when you are president? We have a lot of people who live here. Sometimes when you make decisions, you have to really think thoughtfully about who it is that's going to serve. I understand if we serve our veterans. I understand that makes sense. But to have a piece of land there where no Navajos are living, only non-natives are living and they're enjoying it, that's a 5-star resort for them. And here we are, our veterans are going without constantly. When I think about programs that can actually hire people to come in, you can do that with youth. You can do that with aunties, with uncles. You can bring communities up there for camps. You can get them trained. You can do a lot of experiences, because when we talk about some of the houselessness issues, the addictions, the treatments programs that are needed, perhaps that's a place where somebody can reground themselves. Perhaps that's a place where people can think about, what is their life about? What are they doing? How can they change it? How can they improve it? You know, we talk about treatment, the need for treatment centers. That would be a beautiful place to take people to have treatment. If it's a sweat, if it's a Hogan ceremony, if it's sitting there, however they believe things, a treatment center is needed, and that's one way we can help each other. Sometimes being in our communities at home, our families don't know how to support somebody who's dealing with alcohol, drugs, or any kind of addiction. You have to have family members who are informed and educated about how to do that. Why not create a nice, safe place there where somebody can reground who they are as a father, as a mother, as a child? We can do that together there at that place.
Thank you very much. And if you'd like more information on that, we got that from Navajo Times. And I believe the reason why they did that is because of the Sacred Mountain. So do your research on that. One of the things that I thought was really interesting is the Colorado Preservation something program. Navajo Nation shook hands with them, and they don't allow the Air Force to fly over those mountains for training. So I thought that was really important information. So now we're going to go ahead and change. I will start with you, sir, Mr. Justin Jones. And you said hard questions. Let's see if this one's hard. I'm joking. I'm joking. Navajo Nation faces endless priorities, from housing, healthcare, elders, veterans. What is your framework, or what rank do you use to address these needs and decide who or what gets immediate funding or attention? How do you rank it when everybody has a priority?
I have to go back to what I was asked earlier. What are your guiding principles? The guiding principles, there's a word in the Navajo language that we use. An etik ahnsin case. Aho etik ahnsin case le. Ishjashin khait ina khaliat eto pijdenel nado ba khosjodo khatjedo khanseki siki belkhosjon ayosentle. That's priority number one. What that means is that you have to think about your own life. What makes it the way that it makes your heart, mind, soul, and spirit happy? So it has to come back to the basic principles of life. You have a home fire right here. That is your foundation. So what does that mean? When you think Navajo, that means that you have to have a home. You have to have a home that has to be there. And then you can't just have that home either. You have to have water. Then you got to have food. And then in there, you got to have a sacred bedding. That sacred bedding represents your restful and health. And then through that, then your whole diagram, your whole epitome of your living, your foundation of your Hogan here is that means that your mental, your emotional, physical, and your spiritual being has to be in harmony with one another. e kweke e pilchinani hodlonle ado khalchindo kwena hodlonle and then khodon the dait odoch is do gado khatak hodlondolil. Then you have livestock here. Those are the guiding principles. So in the Navajo perspective, it's not called priorities. That's a Bilagana concepts. In a Navajo concept, atik ehnsitike siki khat ish khatjedo hansekis pe yaat eto. That is what you tend to every day. Because when you have children, you have to think about your children every day first. They eat first, you eat last. You go to work no matter how tired you are every day so that your children can have a decent home, some decent shoes, some food and water. So naturally, that naturally should go into your governance. So those are the guiding principles that I would go by. So the belief and the work that you put in will make those things come to pass.
I really appreciate this question because it goes back to my training, my education as a social worker. When I left high school, I was asked, what do I want to do? Even though my family kept telling me you're going to go to college, they didn't quite tell me what they wanted me to do. But in my heart, I knew that what the life experiences I had, I knew I needed to be there to help other people who were in similar situations, especially kids. Kids who are vulnerable. Kids can be sexually abused, they're exploited, they're trafficked. People use them to traffic drugs. And then we have people with disabilities, people who have all of these senses, and one of them is not working the way ours is. If it's our hearing, if it's our sight, if it's a physical or limited mobility, all of those things are important. And so when I decided to go to college, I said, you know what, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna be a social worker. Some people don't really understand what a social worker is. They just think, oh, they're over there taking care of people who have addictions. It actually is way more structured than that. What we do is we look at the biological science of a human body. Where is this person at? What kind of addictions do they have? Do they have issues with their heart, their health, their kidneys, their lungs, their breathing, their brain? This is our main operating system here. If that's not working, what do? How do we help? And if we don't think about it in those terms, we cannot go far as people or as we can't do that. If we don't have our mental health, our mental stability, we can't go very far. We're going to struggle. Our families will struggle. And then when we look at our environment, what are we dealing with? If it's in our home, if it's in our community, if we know that there's somebody out there struggling and they don't have water, they don't have food, they don't have nutrition, we can probably think about some of our senior citizens at home, our elderly, those ones that are really up there in age. If they don't have nutrition, they're not going to go very far. They need to lean on you as a family member or as a neighbor. So when we talk about prioritizing, this is how I would prioritize. What is the health of our people? Because if they can't take care of their diabetic situation, they can't get to dialysis, or they can't get the counseling that they need, we're not going to go very far. My sisters, my uncles, my brothers are going to struggle because I'm struggling. That's what's happening today. And when we think about the environment, we think about the homes that we live in, the plumbing, the issues. Even when our elderly have to go to the bathroom, some of them can't get around. They can't walk. They have to use a walker. How do they get to the bathrooms outside? These are very serious issues. I'm not worried about going to Washington or the state of Washington to the Nike headquarters. I'm not worried about going down to the valley. I'm worried about my elders. The last thing we think about is the social and the community aspects. Those are really important. Thank you.
Thank you again. Looking at endless priorities. You know, I'm going to come at that question from an engineer's standpoint, which is what I am. The priority here is to really begin to address those different priorities. What you're looking at in most cases with the Navajo Nation is service delivery. How do we get service? How do we bring customer service back to the nation? How do we provide these services to our communities and to our people? The idea here then comes back to really looking at it from an aspect of saying, what are the areas we need to address? Working within your group of people, getting stakeholders together to have discussions, but not just having these endless meetings, but having a meeting with goals and objectives to say, this is what we're going to tackle. Here's who's going to be the champion. And here's when you're going to get it done by. And again, the idea here is looking at it from an objective point of view to say, what are the areas that we need to address today? And by doing that from an organizational standpoint, you start helping your people become successful. You pick those projects where they see that they're seeing results, they're seeing success, they grow in confidence. You continue to work with them and train with them, and they get better and better at doing their job to the point to where you can take on huge, complex issues and do it with confidence. That's the managerial way of proceeding, looking at a number of priorities, looking at critical issue analysis. These are big words, but you're simply saying, I'm going to analyze and I'm going to look at this and we're going to figure out how to get it done. We're going to break it down into its parts. We're going to take this elephant and we're going to eat it one bite at a time. And we're going to achieve the results that we want. We got to know what we want at the end of the day. And once we understand that, we get everybody moving in the same direction. That's how you get things done. That's how you're able to see results. That's how you're able to achieve things. And you achieve transparency. You're able to look at budgets. You're able to look at timelines. And you're able to be truthful with the community. You tell them, this is where we're at. This is what we're doing. And here's where your money's being spent. And in that fashion, people will know what you're doing and what you're trying to achieve. That's how I look at resolving a number of issues at one time. Thank you.
How will I refocus the priorities of the Navajo Nation? First and foremost, most of my plans and the areas that I want to improve within our government comes from my own experience as being a mother. We have to use that same concept within our government. You know, we had a formal establishment of government for more than 100 years now. We had many trial and errors going through different decades, different type of history. You know, and you look back and you reflect, what do we really need to prioritize? For me, it is going back to a mother's love and a mother's guidance. Us mothers, we start early in the morning. We make sure our kids are fed, they have breakfast, they are clothed, laundry's done, and then we get to work, and then we come back again, then we do the same thing. Just imagine if our government just worked as hard as a mother. And that's what we need to do. Shay, what's up on Siskis? So my number one priority within my platform is strengthening our families and our communities, making our communities safer in public safety, and also addressing missing and murdered Indigenous women. We have a family member back there, son of Ella May. And we do need to bring the missing person unit back within our public safety. That's number one. And then also we need to address some of the things that have never been ignored or it was in the past. No means no, meaning domestic violence. We should be able to protect our women, our children, our LGBTQ community. Many of the times they are faced in court issues where they lose the battle because they don't have the support or child support. You know, those are real issues, and it brings down generational trauma down to the next family over the next. And it leads into suicide, it leads into substance abuse, and it leads into all of these mental issues, health issues that we talk about to this today. Not yet. You know, we need to be able to combat those types of monsters. And it starts back from the home. We have to straighten each other up, support each other, empower each other up, and no more division. I'm not here to complain or finger point. I'm actually here to do the work and reunite back all of our Navajo people. Doesn't matter if you speak Navajo or don't, live off or on the Navajo Nation, because we do need to reprioritize our families and our communities. Yeah.
All right, I know you guys ate, and I know that it is around 8 o'clock. I also know it's hot in here, so we're gonna exercise a little bit. Everybody stand up. We're gonna pretend we're herding sheep. So you're gonna stand in one place. Let's herd sheep. Stand on up, herd sheep. Move those legs. Stretch out. The next exercise, we're gonna pretend we're putting the saddle on the horse. Saddle on the horse. One side, saddle on the horse. One side, saddle on the horse. Stretch that back. Put that saddle on the horse. Okay? Next, we're gonna rope the begashi. Rope the begashi with your right hand, rope the begashi. Left hand, rope the begashi. Did you guys catch it? Did you guys get it? Oh, look at that. He got the rope. Rope the begashi. One more time. Herd sheep. One more round. Herd sheep. Move your legs. Herd sheep. Next, saddle the horse. Saddle the horse. Saddle the horse. Lachanana. Saddle the horse. Auto, rope the begashi. One more time. Rope the begashi. Left hand. Other side. Rope the begashi. All right. You guys feeling okay? Good job, you guys. We'll continue with the questions. This time, I've got 4 questions, and you guys will go ahead and pick one. They're all different questions. You will read it, and you will answer. Pick any one. Because I think we have so many questions, we have little time. This is a great way to spend some of that time. We'll give you a minute or two to read through it first. So when it's your turn, we'll allow you to go ahead and read that. And if we could start with you whenever you're ready. Yes. And then we'll go all the way down to the bottom and back up again. So 4 different questions. They've received their own.
The question is, the current backlog in tribal offices proves that centralization isn't working for our vastly growing population. Given that over half of our population lives off reservation, would you support establishing an urban administrative hub in a major metropolitan city to handle things like enrollment, CIB, and voter registration directly? Heck yes, we would do that. I already committed to the Maricopa County, which is the 4th largest county in the United States. It is home to Phoenix, Mesa, Glendale, Avondale, all of these places where Navajos call home. And I committed during the LGBTQ TIA forum that we needed a CIB office there. We need one that operates at least part-time. You know, if we can have it full time, that's better, but we need evening hours when families are available, at least one weekend where families can go over there. We also need an election office. The election office needs to offer voter registration, voter status check, and then on election years, offer an office where people can actually vote and cast their ballot instead of driving all the way back. You know, that 9 hours and gas and trying to coordinate your whole family to get to the election office is one of the bigger challenges. And I asked people in this room today, are you going to vote by absentee ballot? Are you going to walk in to vote? Or are you going to go on election day? And I didn't really, some people were still thinking about your plan, how you're going to do it and what you're going to do. That's really important. The other thing is the enrollment office. It's going through a transition. You know, it's constantly trying to improve their services, but the challenge is actually getting your ID. Is either get a green paper or it's a photo card. And the question has always been, which one do we go with and how soon can I get it? Because I went to the office and they didn't give it to me. The most challenging times that we experienced that was when ICE was going through our nation in different states. And it was one of the, I think for the CIB office, it was probably extremely challenging. I don't see why we are not able to make those services or improve those services. But then that goes back to what I was saying earlier, is that we need to improve customer service, phone calls, email, follow-up, checking in with our offices. That's really critical. When we think about a resource campus, that resource campus can offer a lot of services to a lot of communities in major urban areas like Albuquerque, like Phoenix, like here in Denver, and even other places. When we think about offices, even in Flagstaff, that's another place where a lot of families live, and we've got to make these things a little bit more convenient. When we think about jobs and how do we improve jobs, one of the most important things is to get people to work remotely. I know I've heard on Lean's Live with Lean show, she's like, let me work. I want to work remotely. I can do a lot from here, but my son is important. You know, those are things when our elders have to live in urban areas. I heard a story from a veteran today. They have to live here because they have to live closer to the VA hospital. That is true for so many families. When you deal with arthritis, you have to be in a warmer climate. There's so many reasons why people move away from home, and health is a big part of it. Thank you.
My question is, the Navajo in the City Lady is putting together a Navajo Nation resource book to help us access tribal services. From your perspective as a leader, what is the most imperative piece of information or resource that must be included in this book to bridge the gap between Window Rock and urban Navajos? Really, with all the different suggestions that I've heard in bridging the gap, I really think communication between those of you who live here in the cities and those that govern on the nation is needed. They need to see your faces. They need to understand who you are and that you are a Navajo individual. That the example that I always look at, and I've thought about this quite a bit, is looking at the example of the Cherokee. Their tribal members are spread throughout the U.S. The chief takes himself and certain members of his administration, and they go visit the cities, and they meet with the Cherokee people, and they talk about the reservation, and they bring the different services there so that you, as Navajos living in the urban cities, can see what programs are here, and we can bring some of that here and begin to develop that connection. We've lost that connection because we have to learn how to do this because the demographics have changed. You know, in 2010, there was 170,000 Navajos on the reservation. there was 158,000 Navajos off the reservation. In 2020, we went down. There was 165,000 Navajos on the reservation. There was 268,000 Navajos off the reservation. Our growth happened off the reservation. We need to come to you. We need to understand who you are. We need to bring those services to you and better determine how do we get those services here to Denver, to Phoenix, to Salt Lake. It's changing. We are changing. But more importantly, we got to figure out how do we get you back home? How do we provide jobs and housing and infrastructure for your kids? We're losing our best and our brightest. They're staying here. They're not going home. How do I know that? My kids. My boy here lives in Denver. My daughter here came back from Australia. I've got another daughter that lives in Baltimore, Maryland. They have ways that they can help the Navajo Nation, but no opportunities on the nation. That's what I want to bring back.
Thank you again. My question is, artificial intelligence and automation are rapidly shaping jobs, healthcare, education across the country. What is your vision for how the Navajo Nation will prepare our people, especially our youth, with the necessary skills, training, and resources so they are not left behind in this changing economy? So these are current discussions in our government right now is AI. Many of our children already know what AI is. We're in the generation where we finished college without AI, so some of us here. But what we need to do underneath my administration, we do have to create a workforce initiative. Technology, bridging the gap, and it talks really basically on how to address infrastructure, broadband. So within the area of where I live in Central Agency and throughout some parts of the Navajo Nation, we still do not have 5G network. Many of our schools still continue to have broadband issues or a lack of access into technology or internet classes. So a lot of my leadership will go back into building partnerships and also collaboration. One thing that I do stand on as a speaker and now transitioning over to the president is that we have to be able to have good working relations and being able to work with other people. That includes with our higher institutions such as the Net College, NTU, our own Department of Human Resources, and also different of our enterprises. They need to be part of this discussion because we want to keep our people with the jobs that they have. I know there's a threat right now of AI or different type of technology replacing jobs. But if you look at many of our economy on the Navajo Nation, the biggest job providers are education and health. So we do need to bridge that communication with our healthcare facilities, 638s, and also all of our BIE, public schools, charter schools, private schools, because they have to be part of these conversations as the big employer of the Navajo Nation. So it does include managing technology and also implementing data sovereignty, meaning that many of our language, our culture has to also be protected. But guarantee right now, if you go into ChatGPT and if you say a Navajo prayer, it will already say it for you. Those are the real threats that we're seeing right now, but we need an administration. We have not received any AI plan from the executive branch as of today. But within 100 days, we do need to implement it. And then another thing that goes with AI is data centers. I'm against data centers because we have not secured our Arizona water rights. We have to have water. No more any technology or any outside company coming onto Navajo using our water. It is our time. It belongs to our children. Thank you.
And the next contestant on The Price is Right is... It is the year 2026, and we are facing rapid changes in technology, climate, and where our people live. When you look ahead 20 years to the year 2046, what is your ultimate vision for the Navajo Nation, and how will your choices today secure the future? Two things. I already pray about it every day. Number two, that is the reason why I'm running for Navajo Nation President. In 2046, what do I see? I see our Navajo children, most of all, who will still speak their language. I see our Navajo children who still identify themselves as and then to also make sure that they know how those clan interrelationships, how it works. I see our children still practice our protocols, our demeanors, and our different things that we live by every day. I see children in 2046 as Navajo people to identify themselves to say, to still be able to say that. To still be able to take out their tkhatitin and say, to be able to know how to use that corn pollen, to put it into their mouth for their soul, to put it on to top of their head for their identification by the holy people, and then to say, to still be able to do that. In 2046, I see a Navajo Nation where we still have good light that is not affected by pollution. I see air that's still clean and pure. I see water that's still pure and clean on the Navajo Nation. I still see farmlands where there's tkhatitin that is in abundance. That's the Navajo Nation I'm looking at in 2046. I'm looking at a Navajo Nation where we still have our sacred sites, where we still have our ceremonies, where we still have our medicines, where we still have our language that we could communicate with our Creator just the way that we have been for time immemorial. I still see an individual that is strong, bold, and proud as She'nohokat and Nenchle. I still see a family unit that has a mother and a father and has children and has grandchildren that is there that's strong and proud. I see a Navajo Nation community where Ekitka Ayed is still the epitome of a community where they pray together, help one another out. And I still see a Navajo Nation where we are a proud nation, where we were created in the black world. We went to the blue world, the yellow world, and the white world, that we are still here as a proud Navajo Nation. No matter what this society throws at us, that we're still going to be here. That's what I see in 2046. Akut Ega.
Thank you. A couple more questions. Now we're going to go ahead and start with Crystalline. And Nina is going to read the next question. Some of these are coming in from Facebook area, but I think you wrote this one.
Yeah. Hi. Okay. As you know, oh my gosh. Okay, as you know, the 25th Navajo Nation Council reestablished the Navajo Nation Youth Advisory Council and appointed 12 members to represent youth across the Navajo Nation. I am honored to serve as one of the 2 at-large representatives, advocating for youth living off of the reservation. My question is, on behalf of our Youth Council, many of us leave the Navajo Nation to pursue higher education, employment, or other opportunities, but we aspire to return home to serve our people. What specific policies or initiatives would you support to help urban Navajo youth successfully transition back to the Navajo Nation
and build sustainable careers, housings, and futures within our communities.
So that question is for Jolene, and then we'll have a different one for the rest of you as well.
So the Navajo Nation Youth Council, it was created a few years back underneath a different council. Since that time, underneath this current president, nothing was ever done. So we moved it underneath the office of the speaker now. So now we have 12 confirmed members, excellent youth. We had over 40 applicants, and we had to narrow it down to 12. We've been working very hard with them, but one of the areas I challenged them is come up with 4 priorities that you want to work with as a youth. What is most important to you? Because as an older generation or as an older parent, it is time to give that decision back to our kids. They want to see what is coming forth and they want to be supported. So I think that's number one, just that support system, just as a mom or a dad. And then for coming back to the Navajo Nation when you go off to college, it is hard to come home. And some of the policies that does need to be established is that mentorship or a transition coming back to the Navajo Nation workforce. Going back to HR, a lot of my experience has been public administration. One of the early 100-day plans is when our newly graduates try to come back and apply for a job, we have over 1,000 positions that are open. And you ask yourself, why is that position still open? With an underneath HR, we need to be encouraging. So one of the first step internal policy is once you get that letter of an acceptance or denial of an employment, it should state why you were not selected, or here are some resources. Here are some credits that you may take, or here's a training that is available free to you. Then, within 3 months, then you can come back and apply. Those certain things, that type of communication, because right now all you're thrown is a letter of denial and then you don't know why. And you get discouraged and you don't want to apply again. Those are some areas of how we can bring back our youth. And then also boosting up our summer youth programs. I know many of you come back during the summer or during the fall, but being able to bridge and help you train, not just raking the chapter house or not picking up trash, but we should be able to have transitional jobs because you are our future workforce. So those are the immediate things, and also mentorship. And one of the things that I stand for is really boosting back up our Navajo culture and tradition. So this is the reason why I dress like this every day, because I want to empower back our youth to be proud of who they are.
Thank you. Next, Mr. Justin Jones. This came in from voicemail. In 1978, the American Indian Religious Freedom Act was passed to protect, preserve, and promote the religious and spiritual practices of American Indian people, including access to medicine men and traditional purification ceremonies. Despite this, Native individuals within the federal and state prison systems have often had these rights ignored or denied. As president, what would you do to ensure that incarcerated Navajo Nation citizens have meaningful access to medicine men, traditional ceremonies, and religious freedom while in custody?
First and foremost, we are going to have to sit down with the United States Senate and the United States House of Representatives and the United States Department of Justice, the Attorney General's office, and the United States Bureau of Prisons. Number one is to tell them, we have a federal law here. It begins with the United States Constitution. Number two, the American Indian Religious Freedom Act. And we also have the Bill of Rights. Implicit in those rights and in those laws clearly states that the federal government cannot abridge the spiritual religious belief of a citizen of the United States. And we will say, United States of America, did you forget again that American Indians are citizens of this country? The federal government, let me remind you, it was the Navajo language that won the war in the Pacific. Let me remind you. So through that, you need to create a law or reaffirm a law and strengthen the current statute that's already in place to say that you cannot abridge that in a federal penal system or anywhere else. That is the main argument that we have, not only before several lawsuits that we have going, and many of the lobbying efforts that I have been involved with in Washington for the past 6 years. So, we have to tell the government that if you do not listen, Washington, here's a federal complaint in federal court. We will ban as a nation. I see around this room here, there are many nations that are represented here at the Denver Indian Center. You need a Navajo leader who will stand again and bring all nations together. 2 days ago was a member of Little Bighorn. It didn't take one tribe. It took several tribes to beat General Custer. That's what happened. We need to go back to nation building and getting inner nations back together to combat this and make this federal law complete and once and forever. That's what I will do.
Okay, this question is coming from Achatkatli in Tohatchi, New Mexico. As a candidate for Navajo Nation President, what kind of plans do you have to revitalize Navajo language? In which department should take the lead? That question could go to Debbie.
Thank you for that question. When it comes to our language, we have a lot. We have an emergence school in Window Rock and Fort Defiance area, which teaches children from preschool on all the way up. When we look at the materials that they use songs, they use books, they use written language, they use the conversation between family systems, and that's a really powerful program. So when we look at these school systems, we need to start with our schools. We also have a resource available in Window Rock, the library. We have a cultural center, there's a Hogan right there, but all across the nation, we need to find ways to continue to assert ourselves when it comes to cultural education teaching activities. When we think about state educational fundings, there are some limitations. So you have to find ways to create like a humanities project activity to make sure that those funds become available for schools. I know for me, I can understand the Navajo language, but speaking it takes me time. I really have to concentrate on it because people sometimes don't think about the fact that a child who goes through the foster care system doesn't have the best supportive environments. Many of those children go and they live with Belaganas or other tribal families. And so when you're picking this up, I really am in awe when I hear, I say somebody who can use Navajo language with humor has a PhD level. That's really awesome. That is so admirable. So those are things I strive for every day. But when raising my children, you have to really be intentional as a mom to make sure you give that exposure to your children, encourage them, teach them songs, and let them grow with that. I think that's really critical. When we talk about the education department taking the lead in this measure, we have to think about our school boards. The challenge that we deal with right now with school boards or even trying to meet quorum is almost next to impossible. And we have to do better when it comes to our school boards so that we can come and get aligned on our nation. With the time remaining, I want to mention a couple of things, but I know I'm going to run out of time, so I'll bring it up in my closing. But I really commend all of the organizers for their work that they've done here. I've heard some of the families out here talking about the importance of language and culture, so thank you to the Denver Indian Center for making those available for our children. Ahiha.
Thank you. We'll do another round or two as we're getting the questions together. Mr. Trujillo, this one's for you. Our young people in sports often get overlooked. We need to continue building on the Navajo Nation Hall of Fame that was developed a few years back. A lot of our young people have excelled to the collegiate level. What will you do as president to recognize and support our youth athletes, including continuing the build-out of the Navajo Nation Hall of Fame? And this came from voicemail Justin Ace.
You know, looking at our young people and the accomplishments they've made is something that we need to embrace, and we need to begin to really celebrate in that effort. There are a number of athletes who were very good athletes back in their day, and I can remember many of them. And again, bringing that type of recognition to our Navajo athletes, I think just enhances that aspect of pride, bringing good morale to our people, and really stressing the fact that we can excel in a number of different areas, but not only in sports, but in academics too. There are children out there who are really excelling in academics. And so how do we begin to really do justice? We have the Manuelito Awards, but we really don't have anything. But the Navajo Times puts out a yearly listing of athletes there on the reservation who have excelled over the years. And so again, looking at how we can begin to really provide that recognition. Because I was of the old school, where I was a pretty good athlete in high school. I got involved in intramurals. And then after that, I was on the Indian circuit. I was hitting all the Indian tournaments in Oklahoma, Arizona, Idaho, Washington. I was hitting all the softball tournaments. And so again, those were things that we did, and you recognized some of the top athletes who were playing there and who excelled, and you knew who they were. And so again, those types of recognition, I believe, are very important. But again, I do not want to miss out on those students who are also excelling academically. They also need to be given that recognition. You know, I was valedictorian of Kirtland Central High School. At that point in time, it was mainly Anglo students, but I was the valedictorian. And again, it was something that I remember back then when young kids were coming up to me and shaking my hand and patting me on the back because they understood what I was able to accomplish. We can do the same thing to bring that sense of pride to our people, to our nation, and it extends out to employment, it extends out to a number of other different fields. So I would support that very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Go ahead and read it. One from social media, so this one will be for yourself. Do you know any Navajo ceremonial or oral history that connects Navajo to this place, Colorado? Do you know any Navajo ceremonial or oral history? Oral history, definitely, because we've got the sacred mountains.
Oh, yat na shik di kodo na de kid. what are some of the histories or some of the oral history that is from this region. As we mentioned, Denver is Aboriginal homelands to us. So this has always been my message. We have to be, again, the forefront of Indian country and also straighten ourselves. But being me, my daughter, and this is really actually her first time driving up this way. And that's the role that we play as parents. You always try to pass down some of the knowledge and the history that you know. And when we passed one of our sacred mountains, the Benta, it is here in Colorado. And those are some of the teaching that gives us the strength. And I think that, what those teachings, all of our sacred mountains, what they bring to us is how to lead. And that's one of the reasons why you don't proclaim yourself as a not ani. You don't say she not ani shle. That for me, that was a no-no, because our mountains are the ones that are the leaders. Our animal and our land, our water are the leaders. It's not about us. We're just only public servants. And giving us those histories, some of the stories that we hear are, having that respect sometimes, or in the winter or in the summer. And that's one of the reasons why I put Che on my slogan, because it's a reminder to us that we are not the leaders, or we're not the top. It's not about pride. It's really giving back down to our prayers, our mountains that are here. And we have long history here too, especially going back. This was actually one of the first areas for our first relocatees. If you look back in our history, and they settled here. And with giving that hope that this is part of our land, we are connected to this land. And then there were many boarding schools that were also built here. Many of us don't, have lost family members due to that. Our language, we have to be able to share these stories and share that knowledge with each other. A medicine man or anybody shouldn't be tell you, pay for this, this and that. It should be freely given, because we are at that time in history that we have to share as much as we can with our people.
Thank you. Mr. Jones, this will be the last round for that. The next one is going to be where they'll do their closing. It is going on 9 o'clock, and I know many of you probably want to meet with them, meet, greet, take some photos and so forth. So last question here with these two, and then after that they'll do their closing. So we'll start. First this is from voicemail again. I just want to demonstrate that we're using technology, whether we're recording on our social media, we're also taking questions from people who are not here in Denver. Just a lot of ways that we're really getting connected with other urban native indigenous people as well. So thank you for the opportunity to give this question. Genetic research has been conducted on the Navajo Reservation in the past, and currently the University of Denver has been working with the Navajo Nation on genetic research. If elected, how would you support and oversee genetic research conducted on our nation, and what are your thoughts on the University of Denver partnership specifically?
One of the first questions I have to ask as a Nohokatana, as a keeper of medicine bundles in my home, is Cha'at ibniya. Why? Why are you doing research on our genes? Because based upon our identity, By the way, our identity is depicted by Sisna Jin, so it's the Bensa. So it depicts our mindset. Sisna Jin depicts our mindset. So it depicts our feelings. Sleed depicts our physical being, and the Bensa depicts our spiritual being. That's who we are, and that's our identity. We're satisfied with that. We're okay with that. We have 4 blood cells that was created by white shell woman. Yolke saninla, the nail ilado, kia aninla, todich ininla, and that e trochaninla, adonda e hashishninla. 4 basic clans. When we were going to migrate back from otherwise known as White Shell Island. She gave us 4 blood cells to depict our 4 clans. Those are who we are. So my question is that what more are you trying to study? What are you trying to get at? So what I'm saying is that we have to get away from this Western way of doing things. We have to get away from this Western way of looking at things, again, to protect these things that we have, that we hold sacred. So my question was, and still is, why do you want to do this? I would ask the university, DU, and say, what are you trying to do with this? Is it a prayer? Is it something that you're trying to do? Where are we going with this? Because we have fundamental law, natural, traditional, customary, and common laws that regulate all of this. There are still things that we still hold, that we still hold sacred and we live by. Those are our fundamental laws. One of them is that we have a male and we have a female. So eben na dojanida, just women dojanida, just men dojanida. That's grandma's and grandpa's teaching. That's what my question would be. So I would be very, very careful with that.
Okay, one more question. Given that Denver has no Indian Health Service facility and only a small federally funded urban Indian clinic through Title V, what is your plan to expand healthcare access for Navajo citizens living in the Denver metro area and other urban communities? Yeah. Given that Denver has no Indian Health Service facility and only a small federally funded urban Indian clinic through Title V, what is your plan to expand healthcare access for Navajo citizens living in Denver metro areas and other urban communities?
Thank you for I'm assuming that's my question. Okay. So when we look at healthcare, there's so many different types of healthcare that we need. We can take our kids to the pediatric center. We can also visit some of the pediatric centers for immunization. But then when we have our working with our elders, some of the challenges that they face are very specialized. Some of them are podiatry care. Some of them are for cancer. Some of them are for dialysis. Some of them are for very much more serious issues. And so when we think about that, we have to think about our contracting. Where are those specialty services located? And if it's something that is really, really important and it affects all of our people on the nation and off the nation, why are we not expanding our services on the Navajo Nation to make sure this is accessible? One of the challenges, it breaks my heart when veterans are describing their commute to Albuquerque, their commute to Denver, their commute to Phoenix, everywhere. And when I think about that drive, it can be anywhere from 4 hours to 9 hours. And I think the bigger challenge we also have is if there's an emergency trauma situation where somebody has to be flown out. And then when they get there and they get discharged after either dealing with hip issues, back issues, something very severe, they're just discharged and left at the door front. Why do we allow that to happen to our people? I get so many phone calls, maybe because I have an operating vehicle, maybe because I have a larger vehicle. Debbie, can you come over here and give us a ride back? Our brother is over here, our uncle's over here, your Yaj is over here, can you go pick him up? There's so many phases and components to healthcare. It's not just the service. It's the service delivery, it's the follow-up, it's making sure that the trauma is stabilized. And then for the tribe itself, it's looking at how can we increase reimbursements. We need to expand our healthcare. That is no doubt. Well, there's so much we have to do. Some of the basic services that we also need are, when I meet with senior citizens and elderly, I hear that, Debbie, I need you to do something for me. I need you to go make sure that my mom has dentures. I need you to make sure that we have glasses. I need you to make sure we have hearing aids. So sometimes healthcare is very basic. It might be teeth cleaning. You know, there's a lot of different challenges. And how many of you in here have ingrowns? It's sometimes getting those things specialty care if you have an ingrown, because you can't just go in there, because when we're dealing with diabetes, you can't just take care of that. You have to go see the podiatrist to take care of you. And we're really concerned about those things because it affects all of us. It affects all of us. Thank you.
This last question is for Mr. Jones. Many individuals in power on the Navajo Nation talk about improving it, but accountability is often missing. If elected, how will you ensure that leaders who abuse their positions or make harmful decisions face real consequences? Mr. Jones. Do you want me to repeat it? Many people in power on the Navajo Nation, you guys can hear? Okay. Many people on the Navajo Nation who are in positions of power often talk about accountability. If elected, how will you ensure that leaders who misuse funds, abuse their positions, or make harmful decisions face real consequences?
First and foremost, I've been advocating this for the past almost over a year now. How many of you remember pay your bills? Pay your bills on the Navajo Nation. I've found so many clients coming to my office who have not been paid by the Navajo Nation government, by the office of the president and by the Navajo Nation Council. They were not paid. So what did that tell us? It told us that we don't abide by the law. The law is the law. Many times we overlook the law, or we manipulate the law until it fits our needs over here. So accountability begins with the individuals that are entrusted to enforce the law. An elected official, whether you're at the president or whether you're on the council, whether you're at the chapter house, whether you're in a school board, you are an elected official. You raise your hands and you take an oath. And you say, I will follow the law. Following the law does not only mean prosecuting somebody. Following the law means you set the example. If it's not right, you take the initiative to make it right. That's something that the Navajo Nation government is miserably failing today. That is the reason why we're in a situation that we're in. You have a president that is just completely telling the law, you don't apply to me. You have a council that refuses to initiate resolutions to enforce that law as well. It's plain and simple. Today, many times, the president is being blamed for a lot of things. How about the council? What about you, Nisha'a? You are the one that is entrusted to create the law in either for this law to be complied with. So today, we're in this situation where both parties are blaming one another. Plain and simple, fact. We are in a situation where one is saying, meanwhile, we're spending over $10 million in legal fees on that. So accountability begins when you get all these parties out of office and you need a complete change. That's where it begins.
I'm going to go ahead and just let the rest of the three of you respond as well. I was thinking it was the last question when I asked, but I think somebody wanted that one read. So go ahead and respond if you'd like, please.
I am, as a voter, well, actually, let's say this. As a mother, I'm really disappointed with this administration, with our council. No matter how you look at it, our elected officials are failing us every single day. Every single day. Now, people ask me, well, Debbie, why? You're the one who worked for that administration. You got fired, you got terminated. Oh, nee, that's what happened. I'm not lying about that. I got fired because I follow laws, because I follow policies, because I followed procedures. That is something that a lot of people in this administration are not doing. They kind of smile at you and they look at you and they kind of think that you're dumb, that you don't know what you're doing, or that you don't have bros with somebody who's in the highest top position. That is wrong. Why do these elected officials not know that? I can see it with my own eyes, and it's heartbreaking because I'm the one who sees our elders out in the communities. I've zigzagged across this nation, collecting signatures, standing up for people, listening to our elders. I've heard their pleas. It is so heartbreaking to watch our veterans get fooled out of jewelry, get fooled out of their vote. I have gone to our president, to our chief of staff, to all the people in there. I have explained it. I have gone to speaker. I have gone to delegates. I can't even reach my delegate. When people talk about getting jobs, you have to know people in high places. You have to be best friends with these people. You have to hang out in bars with them. When I was fired and terminated, I went back to the election office because there was a vacancy there for 4 years. I knew it was there. I advocated. It never got filled. So I walked myself over there. I fill out an application. I apply for it. I was told I was not qualified, so I went back and I appealed it. I went back for an interview, and two people were interviewed. The other person got the job. So I was kind of disappointed, but then I found out that person didn't show up. So I called the oversight committee, and I pleaded with them, I need this job. Then nothing happened. Nobody hired me. You would think that when you go to get hired and the person didn't show up, that they go to the second person. No, it didn't happen. Yeah, I'm disappointed in this administration and our council with about a handful who actually listen. Thank you.
You know, looking at our government, there are a number of things that are happening, looking at how things are transpiring. But again, it's really, in my opinion, how do you begin to work through the process as these changes are happening or are addressing these deficiencies that are happening. We still have got to get things done. And working with the council in terms of developing those working relationships and restoring those relationships is top priority for me. You know, I was able to accomplish major projects while I was with DNR, and that was working with the council. That was understanding the process and looking at majority vote and educating and continuing to educate and work with them. Working with our employees, providing that support, building that morale, establishing those goals and those objectives. Looking at it from a managerial standpoint, as a large organization, 18 divisions, 5,000 employees. I was running DNR, which had 500 employees, running together as one unit, developing plans in order to understand what is it we needed to achieve, guiding our employees, giving them direction, supporting them, training them. And when discipline was needed, I disciplined them, but I didn't immediately throw them out. I figured out how do we get the job done? And so working through that process, we've accomplished many things. And again, those two aspects are important because we've got to build the foundation. We got to restore it. You don't just throw it out, you restore it. And as you restore it, you start seeing the people perform. I saw the Division of Natural Resources. Those employees performed. They became innovative. They found new ways of doing things. They developed new programs on their own. They made negotiations work. They built projects. They built a hotel. They expanded the highway. They worked with chapters. They opened up access for people in Eastern Agency to get utilities. They did all these things. They decreased home site leasing down to 45 days. That was back between 99 and 2010. Those are the experiences that I know. That's the talent that I see. And we've got to open the door for business for the Navajo Nation. It's closed right now, but we got to open it up. And a part of it is just, as Mr. Jones indicated, we got to pay. We got to pay. Pay our bills. You guys do. The government needs to do that.
All right, this is the perfect question for me. First of all, I'm just going to stick to facts, no emotion. You know, I don't respond to emotion or reaction. We have to stick to the facts. Fact, this is not the first time this has happened. It has happened in numerous administrations, dating back to the 88, dating back to President Shirley. It goes on and on. You know what changed it? It took a first time in history, a woman of council to change the norm. No way, sure. And that was our immediate response. And we said, no more the tactic of old politics, old guard politics of you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. And that was my position. No, this is wrong. You had to be held accountable. And then we went back out into the communities, the 24 million. Yes, it's missing. And automatically, over a year ago, we said we need a special prosecutor because it cannot be politically influenced. As a delegate, as a speaker, I'm not an investigator. You know, we left it up to the professionals and the courts. Demand the court to have answers. We filed those almost over a year ago today, and no response. And you ask yourself, that is why the justice system was put in place, the judicial system. Those come out of your general funds, the courts. And why are we not hearing the answers? Second, we did a legislation to amend Title II, and we all seen it. The president comes in and out. And we changed the law and we said, no, a president has to be here in person because these are your voters. And we passed that law, and the division directors too, if you're not confirmed, you need to vacate that office immediately. And they are still there to this day. And that was thrown over with the court filing. Oh, council, you can't do that. The speaker, you can't do that. Then second, we collected over 70 resolution for his removal. And I sponsored that legislation. And it was dropped back in December 2025. It did not even finish the 5-day comment period, and it was thrown into the court. And I still have not received answers to that. I'm usually the only one sitting there at court, and he's not there. And what does that say to you? So then again, we don't have an attorney general to this day. Not by council, not by law. And if you ask yourselves, who is protecting us at the Department of Justice? We have a biased Department of Justice, and that needs to stop. You know, it took a woman to say, no way, ate. So stick to the facts, okay?
Thank you for that. And then we'll have their closing remarks. Are you guys liking what you're hearing? Are you hearing some strength in it? Are you hearing some of these changes you want made? Are you going to be speaking with them too? Get their contact names and numbers. How can I reach you and so forth, right? Don't ever forget, we also have Navajo Nation web pages. Sometimes it is hard to navigate, but you can find a whole lot of diamonds in there. I found a whole listing of phone numbers. Get in there, dig, see what chapter you're from, continue the fight, continue expressing your concerns, your issues, because we can make those changes. So this next round here, the last one, we'll have them go ahead and do their 2-minute closing remarks. And then after that, we'll go ahead and do our meet and greet before we close off. And Mr. Trujillo, if we could start with you, please.
Thank you very much. You know, I want to thank the Denver Indian Center for bringing this together with your leadership. And I want to thank you, citizens of Denver, for coming and listening to us. I really appreciate the opportunity. You know, I've worked in a number of different areas throughout my 40-year career. And that's a 40-year career looking at a number of different areas in the private business with nonprofits, but more importantly with the Division of Natural Resources from 1999 to 2010. We were able to work with the employees, bring them training, build morale, establish confidence so that these employees began to perform. As I mentioned, we completed major projects that still are benefiting the nation today. Lifting the Bennett Freeze, expanding 491 and 550, building a hotel at Monument Valley, continuing the operations at Four Corners Power Plant in Navajo Mine, which brings in $75 million a year. Those things we were able to accomplish. But you know, the biggest resource is not only the land, it's our people. Our people providing that support and that morale so that they too can accomplish and meet goals. So I have leadership capabilities, but more importantly, I have managerial capabilities. I can manage large organizations. You got 18 divisions, 5,000 employees. How do you move that force in one direction? I can do that, and I've shown you the results, and you know that. Check my website out. It details everything there. Thank you. Arvin Trujillo, position 3.
Thank you for being here. Some relatives that are here. I actually have many of my own hometown community members here at Talina Cottonwood. So I said, I'm leaving back tomorrow morning. So thank you. Ado kodo. I think one of the immediate plans that I have is bringing back the integrity back into the office of the president and vice president. It is that time. You know, we hear a change. You know, thinking about it from a woman's standpoint, maybe it is time for a woman president. You know, maybe it is that time. It's a real question. I get discouraged all the time, even by my own colleagues that are candidates here, that a woman should not have no business being up here. It's discouraging. You know, when it is about change, why not being acceptable to that? Because we work around the clock, us mothers that are here, us grandmas that are here, because we care about our future. You know, I want her to live in this nation where my future grandkids, my great future grandkids, can have a wonderful nation where they can be proud of again. Like I said, my position is not about complaining, finger pointing. It's just to fix it on day one and start working. You know, too long, we keep repeating the same history over and over again. But it takes a team working with the council, working with the Chief Justice and the President. And it does have to lead a president to lead that discussion voluntarily. Position number 16.
Position number 8. Position number 8. I think that today, the situation that we're in today, it's going to have to take a parent. It's going to have to take a mom and a dad. It's going to have to take a masana and a che, another his tea and another his zan, to tell these children at the Navajo Nation government, all that business that you've been doing going on 2 years now, legislative to executive, executive to legislative, it needs a parent. Who's going to be the parent? You are going to be the parent, the voters. Next month on July the 21st, you're going to restore accountability. Not me, not any of us over here. You're going to do that. How are you going to do it? You're going to vote the current leaders completely out of office. Because you know, as a parent, when one child is mean against the other child in your home, what do? You separate them. That's not being a parent. So the Navajo Nation government today needs a parent to restore accountability. And who is the parent? You're going to be the parent. At July the 21st, position number 8, be the parent.
I want to say thank you to our chapter official over here on this wall, Johnny Johnson. He worked very closely with all of 5 agencies to collect the 77 resolutions that Speaker is talking about on his own dime, on our own dime, our own time. We did that. We have been here with you. We have been with the people. We have stood with you shoulder to shoulder. That's what we did. Working with 18 divisions and offices, I was a division director, and I worked with all of our personnel. In the general season year, it was about 5,000. In the summertime, about 6,500 employees. I worked with all of these offices, and I pride myself on the fact that I would go into their office. I said, I'm just here being nosy, just being a mom, checking on things, making sure we're okay. How do we improve our systems? I sat with the 25th Navajo Nation Council for 2.5 hours going through confirmation. I realized after this administration how valuable a confirmation is, because there's a lot of people that can't get past confirmation. I did. 18-2-1. That was something that nobody can ever take away from me. I sat through that and I passed that. Women have mastered everything in the homes. We've mastered it. We know how to cook, clean, do everything. And then a lot of us in there are mastering things in the corral with the livestock, with our animals, and with sick children and husbands and spouses. We've done that. We've also strived for education because Western education is so critical. Chief Manuelito told us that. I have all of this background and experience to overcome a lot of challenges in life. And I'm proud of myself that I overcame those things. I'm ready to be your president. I have a 230-page policy with challenges, problems, and solutions, and I'm ready to use it. Thank you.
We are very blessed to have visitors coming to see us, all these candidates. There are several to choose from. 4 came to see us, and I tell you what, it's a long drive. If you guys ever drive home, I drive home, it takes me 10 hours. There is a lot of questions that have not been read. There's just so many of them that are coming through, whether it be through the voicemail we set up or through the internet, social media itself. It has been really coming in, I'm gonna say probably over 100. Talking about 100, we had about 105 people attend today. Give yourselves a hand. So we were at 101, and then 4 of you pushed us all the way into 105. So thank you for that. Again, thank you to the Denver Indian Center definitely for hosting today's presidential forum. Thank you, Denver Indian Center. They've got a lot of services that are also associated with. They've got a dental place. They've got clinics down here. Get to that website, take a look. We also want to make sure we say thank you to people who have donated. A couple of my friends that are here, Melissa, Blaine, Andy somewhere. He cooked the hot dogs and hamburgers for us and so forth. And he as well. Sorry, I didn't catch your name earlier. Also, we've got a Navajo attorney who lives here in Colorado, Alvina Earnhardt. She donated money as well. It takes all of us to have a successful event. So I just want to say thank you, and to you guys as well. I'm sure Saturday you would have been rather doing something else. I don't know, TV, dinner somewhere, right? But you came to support not only these candidates, but your community as well. This is how we make changes. This is how we get together and talk about what the issues are, not just on the reservation, but also here in the cities, things that we face. So one more time, let's give a hand to our candidates, please. Stand up for us. Stand up, guys. Let's give them a hand. They did such a great job giving us a lot of answers to the questions we've got. Thank you. So for about the next 10 to 15 minutes, we'll do a meet and greet. If there is anybody that could help us clean up, we sure would appreciate it so we can get out of here a little bit earlier. Let's do our 15-minute meet and greet and then help us clean up, please. Thank you.